Hey there, welcome back. My name is Katie and this is Louisiana Cooking and Living, and we welcome you if you're new to our channel, and we hope you subscribe and follow along. And today we are going to be making some sandwich bread, and I've actually made this recipe for you before, and I will leave that video linked at, we'll say up in the cards here, and that's going to be like the regular way you would make this sandwich bread, but I'm going to try and do a semi sourdough, I don't even know what to call it, ish of this bread. So sourdough typically is going to be your flour and water mixture that's going to ferment on your countertop to extract natural yeast from the environment to cause it to bubble and rise. And I'm not doing that today, but I'm going to do like a slow ferment of it in the refrigerator overnight. And we are going to be using yeast, but I'm trying to get just some better quality, not better quality, let's see, better, easier to digest grains is what I'm going to try and do. Because sourdough bread is very easy on the gut. If you have, let's see, if you are gluten intolerant, sourdough bread is much easier on the gut and you're able to digest it much more easily. So I'm just trying to mimic that a little bit by letting my dough ferment in the refrigerator overnight. We'll give it 18-24 hours in the refrigerator overnight. We'll make some sandwich bread out of it tomorrow, and we'll see how this turns out. I hope you're along for the journey and are interested in this technique, because I am, and this will be my first try, so we're trying it together. So the first thing we're going to do is get our yeast blooming in our warm water. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So this recipe is enough to make 2 loaves of bread, and I have 2.5 cups of warm water in here. You don't want this too hot because you will kill your yeast. And to this, we're going to be adding 2 tablespoons of sugar, because the sugar feeds your yeast. And then I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of instant. I don't have instant yeast, and that's why I'm letting mine sit for and activate. Instant yeast, you wouldn't necessarily have to do that, but I have active dry. So I need 2 tablespoons of the yeast. I buy this yeast on Amazon, and I keep it in my refrigerator to make sure it is longer lasting than just on your shelf. Give this a quick stir, and we're going to let this sit for 10 minutes to let it bloom. When it becomes kind of foamy, you know it's ready to go. Make sure I get all the yeast out of my measuring spoon. All right, we're gonna let this sit for 10 minutes and we're gonna come back. All right, our yeast mixture is nice and bubbly. Let's see if you can see all nice and bubbly in here. And then what we're gonna do is we are going to pour this into the bowl of our mixer. Already smells divine. And to this, we're going to start off with 2 cups of our 6 cups of flour. This way you really hydrate your flour, and it's not, it's much easier to tell if your dough is going to work out. To this, we're going to add 1 tablespoon of salt. Now, if you wanted to flavor your bread at any time, this would be the time to do it. You could do like a cinnamon raisin, or you could do more of a savory and do like some rosemary garlic and do it like a loaf of French bread kind of thing. But we're just doing sandwich bread right now. You're going to want 1/4 cup of neutral oil. I'm using avocado oil right now. You could use an olive oil, whatever oil you want to use. All right, we're going to pour that in here. Whoops. We're going to put this on our mixer. With our dough hook. You could very easily do this in a bowl with a wooden spoon or a spatula, and then use your hands to knead it. But I'm going to use my stand mixer. All right, once we have that incorporated, we're going to add our next 2 cups of flour. Well, I'm not being precise with this because at this point it's not a precision thing. All right, scraping down all that loose flour off of there. Give this one more mix. All right, we're going to add our next 2 cups of flour. And you can tell I'm not really getting full cups at a time because I have so much left here. And put a little bit of extra in there. All right, so depending on how humid it is in your area as to how much flour you're going to really end up at kneading. And as you can see, this is still some pretty wet dough. So I'm going to add some more flour because we want this to come into a ball that's very smooth. And this definitely needs more flour in this. So I'm going to add some more flour to this. I'm going to rinse my hands off first though. Then we'll get some more flour in there. All right, I can tell this needs a little bit more. All right, we've come together in a ball here, and what I'm going to do is, my counter is clean. I do have a little bit of flour that kind of flew out, which is totally fine because I'm going to add some more flour to my countertop. And I am going to finish kneading this by hand. Get this in a pretty ball. So kneading is pretty much just pulling it towards you and pushing away. And the more you make bread, the easier it is to know when you have enough flour in your dough and what it's supposed to look like. I've tried my hand at sourdough several times, and every time I have a starter, I kill it because with work and everything, I just don't have the time to focus on that. But I love making bread because I love fresh baked bread. And it's so much better for you than buying store-bought bread with all the additives. So here we have, and I'm not worried about kneading this too much either because this is going to sit in our refrigerator overnight. So what I'm going to do is take my bowl here, and I have a pretty big bowl here because I wasn't sure how much this is going to rise while in the refrigerator. And I'm going to grease my bowl. I'm going to take my dough. I'm going to kind of turn it around in there so the top and all the sides are greased because we don't want this sticking. And then I'm going to cover this with some plastic wrap. All right, let me grab some plastic wrap. All right, we're going to cover this with plastic wrap and we're going to put this in the fridge. The fridge process slows down that yeast activity, and we'll see how this looks tomorrow. And we'll be back to make our loaves. All right, so this was in the refrigerator for a couple of hours and it was already up to the top of the saran wrap. So I punched it down and now we have risen again. So this is not going to make it overnight. This only lasted in the refrigerator probably about, I'm trying to look at the clock. So only about 3.5 hours. So my plan for my pseudo sourdough did not work. But this is going to be perfectly good bread. It's just not going to be my sourdough-ish that I wanted. So let me get a knife to cut this in half so we can shape our 2 loaves. So what I'm going to do is actually just take this out of the bowl. are going to cut this in half-ish. So I have my 2 stainless steel loaf pans here. And what I'm going to do is I've baked this before and did not do anything to my pan, and my bread kind of stuck. So what I'm going to do is line it with parchment paper. But the trick to this is to crumple it up so that it doesn't want to move around on you too much. It'll kind of stay in place. All right, I have my oven preheating to 350 degrees, and we're going to shape these. And the best way to do that is to press this out into a rectangle. And then we're going to just start kind of folding in our edges like this. And then rolling it all together. And then just kind of pinch our seams. We're just trying to form our loaf shape here. We'll put this down our pan. All right, we'll push this out into our rectangle. We're going to kind of fold that in, and we will roll this, which I totally forgot that's what we're supposed to do with the other one, was to roll it, then pinch our seams together. All right. So we have our 2 loaves here, and we're just going to cover these with a towel while our oven is preheating to 350 degrees. We'll cover these with a towel, let them rest for about 15 minutes. They are still a little cold from being in the refrigerator, so we'll let them rest for a few minutes, and then we'll uncover these and put these in the oven for about 30 minutes. All right, let them rest. All right, we've been resting in our pans here, and I think we're ready to go in the oven. So we're going to go in the oven on 350 for about 30 minutes. You want to take an internal temperature of a bread to make sure it's completely done at 190. And since these are semi-cold still, I think I'm going to check their temperature in about 30 minutes just to make sure they are done before I pull them out. So let's get these in the oven. All right, timer is set, and we will be back whenever we check their temperature. All right, these did take a little longer because they were cold on the inside. I just made sure they came to a temperature of 190 degrees. I ended up baking them for about 20 minutes longer. I just laid a piece of foil over the top of them so they didn't get too brown. And now while they're still hot, I've pulled them out of the pan. And while they're still hot, I'm gonna rub some butter on the outside of them. And you're supposed to wait till bread cools completely before you slice it, but I am gonna have to slice into this for you guys so you can see the inside. I have never used an electric knife to slice bread, but I have heard that is the best way to slice it so you don't push down on the bread as you are cutting it. So we're gonna use the electric knife this time and see how it goes. All right, we'll get this in here. All right, move this over to the cutting board and we'll give her the slice. All right, there's our bread. Oh, it's hot. We'll get a little taste. All right, we have our little piece of bread. I've buttered it. I love hot bread. So good. I hope you give this recipe a try. I'll leave a little playlist over here on this side where you can check out some other videos. On this side, I will leave my logo where you can touch that and subscribe very easily. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.